Taiwan now stands at a crossroads of history. If France truly approves the sale of Rafale fighter jets, the impact will go far beyond a simple aircraft purchase. This decision could be a turning point in the relationship between Paris and Beijing, shaking the stability of East Asia and testing France's resilience in global politics. For France, selling Rafales to Taiwan is a high-risk gamble. The Rafale is indeed one of Dassault Aviation's flagship export products and a symbol of European defense industry pride. However, Trappier, Dassault's CEO, has already stressed that contracts like this are not merely an industrial matter, but a political decision entirely determined by the French government. If the Élysée dares to give the green light, the consequences could hit France's economy, diplomacy, and even its strategic position on the international stage. The first impact is diplomacy. Beijing has long opposed any form of foreign military cooperation with Taipei. If Paris sends Rafales, China will interpret it as a direct betrayal of the One China principle that has long underpinned its international relations. France-China diplomatic relations could deteriorate rapidly. Beijing may recall its ambassador, downgrade bilateral relations, and even freeze strategic cooperation forums that were previously built with caution. The second impact is economics. France considers China one of the main markets for its industrial products. Airbus, the European aerospace giant that depends heavily on the Asian market, exports hundreds of aircraft to China. The French luxury goods sector, such as Louis Vuitton and Dior, profits enormously from China's upper-middle-class consumers. Even the agricultural sector, including Bordeaux wine and cheese, counts China as a rapidly growing export destination. If Beijing seeks retaliation, it has many tools. Airbus contracts could be canceled, luxury brand expansion permits could be suspended, and French agricultural products could be blocked from entering the Chinese market. The third impact is domestic politics. Emmanuel Macron has repeatedly emphasized the importance of Europe's strategic autonomy, a vision that seeks to distance Europe from total dependence on the United States or pressure from China. Selling Rafales to Taiwan could be tangible proof of this bold vision, but it could also trigger criticism from domestic political opposition worried about economic consequences. Pressure from the luxury good industry, aerospace, and agriculture could turn into a political boomerang for the French government itself. However, the Rafale contract could also bring strategic benefits for France. By exporting Rafales to Taiwan, Paris could strengthen its position as a global actor willing to make independent decisions. This step would show that Europe, especially France, can play a role in Indo-Pacific security, not just as a follower of US policy. Economically, the multi-billion-euro contract could boost France's defense industry, expand jobs, and further cement the Rafale's reputation in the global market. For Taiwan itself, the impact would be highly significant. The Rafale is not merely a new aircraft, but a giant leap in its air defense capability. With an AESA radar, the SPECTRA electronic warfare system, and compatibility with Meteor and Scalp EG missiles, the Rafale would give Taiwan far greater ability to defend against potential Chinese airstrikes. Until now, Taiwan's Air Force has relied on F-16Bs, indigenous defense fighters, and aging Mirage 2000s. The arrival of the Rafale would drastically change that balance. Beyond the technical aspects, the political impact for Taiwan would also be substantial. If Paris truly signs the contract, it would be the first major European sale to Taiwan in the last 30 years. This step would grant Taiwan international legitimacy, proving that it is not solely dependent on the United States, but can also forge defense cooperation with other major powers. It would boost morale among Taiwanese citizens and send a clear signal to Beijing that diplomatic isolation has not completely succeeded. But these advantages would come at a high price. China would almost certainly intensify its pressure, Taiwan could face large-scale military exercises encircling the island, simulated naval blockades, and provocative J-20 flights near the Taiwan Strait's median line. Cyber pressure, disinformation campaigns, and attempts to weaken public confidence in Taiwan could also escalate as part of Beijing's response.
For China, the arrival of the Rafale in Taiwan would be a symbolic blow. Beijing has always sought to portray Taiwan as isolated, without international support. If a major country like France dares to sell advanced fighter jets, that narrative collapses. More than that, China would feel its military challenge growing. Rafales armed with Meteor missiles would force the Chinese Air Force to adjust its strategy, as Taiwan's beyond visual range advantage would increase significantly. As a response, China is likely to not only intensify pressure on Taiwan, but also expand its influence in Europe. Beijing could try to divide the European Union by offering economic incentives to countries unwilling to follow France's example. It could also accelerate its military partnership with Russia as an indirect warning to Paris and Western allies. The regional impact would be undeniable. Japan and South Korea would become more vigilant, strengthening their security cooperation with the United States and perhaps increasing their own defense budgets. ASEAN nations, especially the Philippines and Vietnam, might feel emboldened to challenge China's maritime claims in the South China Sea, seeing that Europe itself has begun to engage. Meanwhile, the United States would likely welcome France's move, as it aligns with Washington's strategy of urging allies to share responsibility in the Indo-Pacific. But for France, this path is filled with risk. It could gain economic and strategic benefits from the Rafale sale, but it could also lose access to China's enormous market. It could raise its global status, but also face diplomatic isolation from Beijing. In the end, a single Rafale contract could trigger major changes in international relations. Taiwan could become stronger, China more aggressive, and France, the first European nation to dare challenge the geopolitical taboo in East Asia. And the great question now hanging in the air is this: will Paris dare to take that risk? Will France trade its economic stability for global strategic ambition? And will Rafales truly soar in Taiwan skies, or will it all end as political maneuvering behind diplomatic doors? The answer can only come from Paris. What do you think? Will France dare to sell Rafales to Taiwan despite China's pressure? Share your opinion in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more dramatic military analysis.